Welcome to Collaborative. I'm your host, Sydnee Walker, along with Kaylah House serving as guest co-host. Today, we are joined by Miles Johnson. Miles currently serves as an associate digital producer at Fox Sports, where he creates social content across Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Threads for studio shows. He is also the creator and host of the Real Talk with MJ podcast, a sports talk platform with a special focus on Philadelphia sports. With over 80,000 followers across social platforms, the show has featured interviews with some of the biggest names in sports, including Chris Paul, Trae Young, Jaylen Brown, and more. Welcome. First up, we have Sid's This or That Philly edition. I'll give you some choices and you'll tell me your preference. So first, water ice or soft pretzel?
Water ice, come on. And Kings too. Kings. Kings of West Philly. If you know, you know.
Oh, I love pretzels, so I got to go with soft pretzel. Phillies or 76ers?
Uh my heart's with the Sixers, but the Phillies got a better chance of actually doing some. So I'll say Phillies right now.
All right. Liberty Bell or Rocky Steps?
Rocky Steps. Rocky Steps.
It's iconic. Good choice.
Iconic.
And last but not least, Philly cheesesteak or roast pork?
Oh, Philly cheesesteak. And Jim's is the best one. I mean, Jim's the best one.
All right, I'll make note of that next time I'm in Philly. I will now turn it over to Kaylah.
Awesome. Thanks, Sid. And thank you, Miles, for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking the time. And so I kind of want to start off with the current role that you're in. What was your path to landing your role at Fox Sports, and what pivotal moments helped shape your career?
Yeah, I would say I started at Fox as an intern in the spring 2024.
Mhm.
And I was only able to be eligible to be an intern because I was a graduate student at NYU. So I was in New York City. Fox has, well, they had two shows based in New York. At the time, it was First Things First, and it was the Carton show when I was interning, then became Breakfast Ball. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but I interned for First Things First, and so it was a show that I watched when I was in high school, and made some connections there and kept up with it. And then I interned for the Olympics that following summer and got more experience corporate wise and doing social media. I still was posting on my own sports podcast,
Mhm.
but I got more experience corporate wise, creating social media. And then literally my internship was over with the Olympics, and I was with my mom, my dad, and they were kind of on me. They're like, "All right, you got one more semester at NYU. Like, we going like, can you get a job or something? Get a full-time job? Like, what's up?" And they kind of didn't really understand that, like, in journalism, it's not so like, are you graduate, boom, you're going on Wall Street like some of my guys like in Morehouse are doing us in finance. Like it's kind of like, all right, you gotta keep grinding and keep networking and eventually something's gonna hit. And so I ended up just reach going on LinkedIn, putting my resume out and said, hey, I'm looking for work. And uh it actually like kind of went viral. On LinkedIn, I got over like 1,100 likes. And so a mentor of mine who I met at NABJ in 2022, she called me and she said, hey, there's a social producer position at Fox Sports. And like, do you want me to refer you? And I was like, yeah, of course. It's in New York already. It was for Breakfast Ball, which was a studio show at the time, and it was a phenomenal experience. Unfortunately, a couple weeks ago, it got canceled. But I am grateful to God that they still kept me on. So we'll see what the next show is. But that's kind of how I started at Fox and the connections I made there.
That's awesome. And I know you just talked a little bit about your personal show that you host. And so my next question, um, you're juggling both of those roles right now, posting Real Talk or hosting Real Talk with MJ, and then also doing the digital content for Fox Sports. So how did you manage balancing not only your personal brand, but the company's brand as well?
Yeah, I think when I interned, I'm sorry, when I was interviewing with Fox, they were already aware of the content I was making. It was
Mhm.
a guy from Philly that worked for First Things First, and he would repost some of my Eagles stuff. And my boss now, at the time she was interviewing me, kind of asked him, all right, like, is he cool? Is he a good guy? All this stuff. And he spoke highly of me, which was pretty cool. But they were already aware of the podcast, and I was pretty straightforward that I'm gonna continue the podcast like no matter what. So you either taking real talk or you taking me continuing real talk or like pick somebody else. And I'm very grateful and happy that they asked me one time, is it gonna like impact your workflow? I said, nah, my dad taught me hard work since I was born. And I've seen him grind and I'm a grinder too. And so it's definitely like 10-hour days, 11-hour days during the week because you're getting there like a regular 9 to 5, and then right after it's either recording or editing for 3 to 4 hours, depending on what the content's looking like that day. So during like the 7, 8 months I was at breakfast ball, like I would get there at 7:45. I would leave around like 1 o'clock, maybe like 2, and I'm getting back home around like 3 something, and I'm making content till around like 6, 7. So it was definitely a grind. I think it got much easier when I was out of graduate school, because I still had a full-time job when I was at NYU and posting content for the podcast. So that was a little much for me. So once I got out of school, it felt like, oh, I got way more free time. Even though it was still a lot, it was like I still got more time.
And it sounds like you're doing a pretty good job balancing it all and you have kind of your routine together. You've had some huge names like Sydney mentioned, Chris Paul, Trae Young, Jaylen Brown on your show. And I'm curious as to how you went about landing those high profile guests. And then I'm just curious which interview taught you the most.
Yeah, it was definitely credit Morehouse for those opportunities, because they were able to, and really Ron Thomas, who is the director of the journalism program at Morehouse, like he's been able to just advocate for me in rooms that I wasn't in and speak highly of rooms that I wasn't in. And so he got me invited to NBA All-Star Weekend when I was just a junior at Morehouse. And that's how I was able to interview Chris Paul, interview like Trae Young, Kate Cunningham, etc. I would say Chris Paul definitely was my favorite, not because of I only asked, it was like around a bunch of sports reporters, the Dave McMenamins of the world, the Brian Windhorses of the world. Um, and it's a whole bunch of them. And then I'm like the one student journalist there. Uh, and I have a speech impediment, so I'm extremely nervous. And I remember I was like, could you shout out Morehouse College? But on the M, I like held on for maybe like 1.5 seconds. 1.5 seconds, that's a pretty long time. At least that's what I thought. And so, but he just looked at me like nothing happened and answered my question. And so that gave me all the confidence I needed, because whether it's me feeling like conscious about what my peers think of me, or what a mentor thinks, or different people in the industry. I'm like, well, if the future first ballot Hall of Famer is answering my question, I shouldn't be worried about what anybody else has to say. So I would say that was my like favorite, most impactful interview. Um, and I hope that like just by posting that, that it like inspired people that go through the same stuff that I went through growing up, and still to this day by day, like that, like if you have a goal, you have a dream, like you can accomplish that too.
I love that. That's a perfect segue into my next question because I would love to know what has been your biggest learning curve moving between, traditional sports coverage to social first storytelling. If you could just give one piece of advice to someone, whether it's someone on this Zoom call or someone who may watch this video who wants to build a sports media brand from scratch, what would that be?
I would say like the two things that I really live by, and I feel like you can't lose with having these two things is consistency and creativity. It's been a lot of people that I've seen have started sports podcasts and they're going crazy for a month, 2 months. But because maybe they're at 500, 1,000 followers and they don't see exponential growth from the beginning, they just stop. And once you stop, it's you lose traction, you lose all momentum that you have. And so if you're consistent and you're consistently creative with the content that you do publish, the content that you do create, there's like no way like that you will lose. Like if you I have like over 2,000 posts made from the Real Talk page. If you go on Instagram and if you I ain't telling nobody to do this, but if you happen to have time, like scroll down to like the first post, I was really taking screenshots of the Apple Podcast like episode drop, like, and it was like a static picture of the episode title. It was no video element, anything like that. And I would do that all of 2020. I didn't start getting the camera stuff and all that until I used my the unemployment checks they had during COVID, and I ended up investing that in myself. So just be consistent and don't feel like it's all right, I gotta wait for like the perfect time to start podcasts. Like the first thing that you post, sorry to break it to you, is gonna be the worst thing that you post. So you gotta just go out and start off rip. And then over time, and I look back at what I've done in 2020, I think it's terrible. I think when it's 2030, look back 5 years ago, 5 years from then to like at this time, and I'll be like, all right, that was terrible. So uh public speaking, content creation, creativity, like you just get better with it over time. So uh be consistent in like everything that you do.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. It's always great catching up with you, and you're such an inspiration. I hope the people on the Zoom feel the same way.
Miles, thank you again for taking the time to spend it with us this evening. It's been great watching your journey over the years. Really appreciate all the advice and gems you dropped tonight. So keep doing your thing. Really proud of you. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Sydney. I appreciate all the work you do. Thank you, Kayla. Because I wouldn't have gotten some of my opportunities without her speaking for me in rooms that I'm not in. So thank you for everybody being here.